9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Good morning, good evening, good morning, good evening. Welcome to Pro Fan Talk. Happy Thursday to you. We are back. Keep doing it. Keep bringing it. What's up, my guy Vince? Number one out the limo. I appreciate you as always, my brother. And as usual, week by week, day by day, even in the offseason, the NFL is the gift that keeps on giving. Chucks, number two out the limo. What's good, my guy? Chucks, we got to hook up, bro. Definitely got to hook up, especially with all of the combine and draft analysis. Definitely want to connect with you, bro. We're gonna make something happen. But a lot of stuff going on, man. And we are at, I don't know what to call this. This is DEFCON 4 as far as all of these rumors and social media stuff. Is AJ Brown trolling us? Is it real? Is it his site? Like, what the hell is going on, man? This is just from everything that happened at the Super Bowl to right now with the stuff going on with Dallas. Big Dom, the babysitter. Like, what in the world, man? What in the world? Like, I've never seen I believe social media is at critical mass right now because there's so many stories. The news cycle is so fast right now. You can't talk about one thing, and by the time you finish your sentence, something else is out. So, yeah, man, we got to do something, Chucks, man. It's draft season, bro. I've been trying to hook up with Ian. I think his last name is it Ian Shane. He's a guy I've talked to before. He's a draft analyst, and he's been doing it for a while. But and I connected with him and told him, I was like, we definitely got to get you on. But I know this is his busy season, but we're gonna try to make something happen. Ian Cummings, check him out, Ian Cummings on Twitter. So, but yeah, man, a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, I want to see what Kellen Moore is going to do. That is a big question mark that I have. Are we going to be balanced? We are expecting everything to be as it was with Kellen Moore. Has he shifted? Has he changed? That's one of the questions we have to get answered. And the problem that we have right now, and I'm saying we as fans, is we're not going to be able to answer any of these questions until the season starts. You're not going to be able to answer these questions in camp. Not at all. The only question I want to see in camp answered is this. After seeing what Detroit did with how physical their camp was and the success that they had, because everybody thought Detroit was going to be pretty good. Nobody saw that coming. But after seeing them, I don't know if they were on Hard Knocks or whatever it was, where they released the footage of the speech that Dan Campbell gave, talking about trust them. There's a reason why they're being physical, tackling and getting people to the ground. That whole mindset is always successful. On the flip side of that, you got the Cowboys, DeMarcus Ware, talking about they were tired. And you saw that whole reaction with Bart Scott on the show and everything. That was hilarious. Now, I'm not crazy about Bart Scott, but he was 100% on that. And that was hilarious. That was hilarious. Brian Wilson, what's going on, my guy? I appreciate you, brother. But yeah, that was when he called everybody soft. And it's just, it is not that they're soft, man. That is the tone that most of these coaches set in camp. That's the tone they set. And you get what you get. That's the bottom line. You get what you get. So, hold on. Did my notes just disappear? So, but yeah, man. Oh, I didn't even write this down. One thing I definitely wanted to talk about is, isn't it interesting how the NBA Their All-Star game is in the same situation our Pro Bowl was in about 7 years ago. The NBA has gotten to the point where they are on the court, but nobody wants to play. Nobody wants to mess up that guaranteed money, those huge contracts. Nobody wants to do it. They scored 387 points in a game. That is ridiculous. You can't even do that on the video games. That was absolutely crazy. But they caught a lot of flack for it. A lot of people didn't like it, said it was boring. The feedback on it from my standpoint and the things that I've seen wasn't very good. So it's interesting to see how the NBA is now in the same situation as the NFL. And what are they going to do about it? They already do the dunk contests and the drills and all of that kind of stuff. Now they're bringing in the WNBA for the three-point contest, all of that kind of stuff. What else could they do? What else could they possibly do? Have some type of more increased fan involvement? I don't know. I don't know what they could do. So, we'll see what's going to happen. But the first thing came in. Chucks, I'm glad you in here, man, because we got to talk about Tyrion Davis-Price. I thought it was absolutely hilarious that we got another big back from San Francisco, bro. I saw that and I started cracking up. I was like, we got another big back from San Francisco. Is he going to sit on the sidelines? Now, the good thing about now, Ewing 609, what's going on, bro? Hey. The good thing about this now is because Kellen Moore is in the building, our whole mindset is different because he's an X factor. We don't know what he's going to do. We've seen his history. We've checked out his resume. So we know what he did in Dallas. We know what he did in San Diego. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to do the same things here in Philadelphia. However, you can only go by your track record. And until he shows us different, it is what it is. But that's not a bad thing. Because after what went down last year, it is not very difficult to be better than that. Not difficult at all. And if you were like me, when you watched that Super Bowl, the first thing I thought of after that game was over is if our Philadelphia Eagles were at their best where we expected them to be, you can't tell me they couldn't have beat the San Francisco 49ers. You can't tell me they couldn't have beat Kansas City on that day. But we weren't. So Kansas City is now considered a dynasty because of that. We had our shot and we fumbled it away. And all of that talk about having a stale offense and all of that kind of stuff, that's the stuff that still rubs me the wrong way. We did not have a stale offense. We just didn't, just like our running backs and just like our edge rushers, we didn't use them correctly. It seems to be a common theme. Edge rushers, we drop back in pass protection or pass coverage when you've only got a guy that's had 10 plus sacks for 4 years straight. What are you doing? And the funny part is they did the same thing to him in Arizona. They did the same thing to him, not so much so in Carolina. Carolina understood the assignment. Arizona did not. But we should have understood the assignment. We tried doing that when he got here. And then they finally turned him loose and you see what you get. And they still try to put the square peg in the round hole. I don't understand that at all. If you want to put him in the package, put him in the package. But let that man do what he does best. Hassan Reddick should not be dropping back. And everybody knows that. It's a mismatch nightmare. And teams took advantage of it. If you're going to do it, if you're going to give it to me, I'm gonna do it. So I don't buy that stale stuff because that's a media created word. I don't, there's nothing stale. You go and you watch film every week like everybody else does. And then you watch based on what you've seen, the team you're playing based on their history and their track record and what they've done this year versus different teams, different schemes and things of that nature, you come up with a game plan. So there's nothing about stale. When you're playing a team, they either know what you're running, they can sniff it out, or they can't. Doesn't mean that it's stale. Everybody knew what San Francisco was running. We just couldn't stop it. Is their offense stale? Now, some of their blocking schemes might be stale, as we saw again in the 2 years in a row. Shanahan did the same thing, trying to put Kittles on a rush edge, and it didn't. That was bad for business, and it ended up costing them. So maybe Shanahan is not as formidable or as good as he thinks he is. But as far as Kellen Moore goes with these running backs, what are we going to do? We know he has experience with Zeke, and hopefully they can figure out some way to be able to use that talent better than we have. And here's the thing. 2 years in a row, we have drastically misused our running back. And 2 years in a row, in spite of that, we still had 2,000-yard rushers. Now, when DeAndre Swift got here, we heard everything in the world about getting him involved in our passing game. It can help. Now we can go back to doing our screens. And we had all of these expectations for DeAndre Swift, and they did jack squat with him. I can only imagine what Andy Reid would do something, what he would do with something like DeAndre Swift, with a weapon like that. It is frustrating. We are always in a situation where we're looking at games, we're looking at defenses, even in our Super Bowl year. Why couldn't we do that? How come we don't have a hot route? How come we can't mismatch DeAndre Swift against a linebacker? How come we can't do that? And it seemed like that was the whole crux of the frustration of last year when we went to the Super Bowl. Offense and defense. We're not blitzing enough. We don't have any variety in our playbook. We're not going in motion. And I always say this, is we as fans, if we as fans can see that, then your opponent can definitely see that because they study the film. So I don't understand why we did some of the things we did, but I do want to see what we're going to do different. I don't think Kellen Moore is coming here to fail. Vic Fangio's not coming here to fail. And to be honest with you, I don't think Sean Desai didn't come here to fail. Brian Johnson didn't come here to fail. So, you got to look at, what kind of ingredients were you putting in the formula, because it blew up in your face. But you knew everything about what we were supposed to do in the preseason. You saw, or not preseason, but last season. Brian Johnson saw everything that we did and should have done in the Super Bowl year. He was right there in the mix. He was in the meeting rooms. So you mean to tell me he couldn't figure out that maybe we need to go in motion a little bit more? He couldn't figure that out? He couldn't figure out that maybe we needed to have a blitz pickup? Because I refuse to believe we just did not go over that. I refuse to believe that. And if somehow, some way we find out that was true, then maybe Nick Sirianni should have been gone a lot sooner. Or if it's all, dumping the playbook in Brian Johnson's hands, then maybe it was him. Maybe that was the right move. I don't know. All I know is it wasn't working. Wasn't working. So we've got to sit back and figure out what's going on and how to get everything back to the way it should be. So Kellen Moore is able to use the running back very effectively between the 20s, but has a tendency to throw away too often in the red zone. Sometimes to RBs, a lot to tight ends. I don't care who he throws the ball to, as long as we get the points. And I have no problem throwing the ball as long as it is common sense. As long as it is common sense. So here's one of the things where, as a player, I look at what we've got in the building right now with Fangio and Kellen Moore, specifically Kellen Moore right now. That's what we're talking about. I trust the fact that he's going to come up with a game plan because he is still auditioning for a head coaching job. And depending on how we do this upcoming season will probably determine whether or not he gets one. Or maybe he will decide that maybe being a coordinator is where I want to be. Because I can get the best, return on investment. I can get the best results. And at the end of the day, I can still get a Super Bowl out of it. Because regardless of how bad we look, and we look bad, the only team in NFL history to go 10-1 and not win 12 games. So it got bad. But to be able to get that far with the direct that we had, with the nonsense that we had on defense, that's still saying something. Now, once we got there, I don't know. It's like they gave the sticks to the toddler and let him play your game, and it's like they just screwed it up. And I don't understand the logic in that or what they were thinking. So I don't know. And now, we get all of this stuff about Sirianni needing help from Big Dom on the sidelines. So Big Dom is basically, of course, they call him a babysitter, and everybody has run with that. Big Dom the babysitter, right? So here's my logic on that. If that's what he needs to do, if that's what Nick Sirianni needs, so be it. If that's what he needs, so be it. Everybody has somebody, whether it's friends, family, one of your boys, play cousin, aunt, uncle, whoever. Everybody has one person that you knew, grew up with, or even work with right now that keeps you out of trouble, that helps you keep your foot out of your mouth, and keeps you on the path. Everybody needs somebody like that in their life. However that manifests. And if that's what Big Dom is to Sirianni, so be it. If that's what works for him, let it work for him. How you going to criticize him now? That's the same Sirianni and that's the same Big Dom that was with us when we went to the Super Bowl. So if that's what they were doing when they went to the Super Bowl, why are you going to change it? You're not. You roll with what works. And again, in spite the direct that happened this year, we still made it to the playoffs. So that relationship, whatever it is they doing, whatever it is you want to call it, it works. So leave it alone. But everybody wants to nitpick. You got to criticize Philly for something. The hate on Philly is just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. But if that's what it takes for Sirianni to do what he needs to do in a effective and successful manner, leave him alone. Let Big Dom do what Big Dom does. And let me say it like that, just for context, right? Because now he's catching flack for, you want to be the CEO coach, but you need somebody to help you out. You shouldn't need a babysitter. You shouldn't need, and I'm like, well, what about the coaches that need somebody that's usually got a nephew or a son running around with his headset on, because if he didn't do that, he would yank the thing out. Or you got the coach back there that keeps the coach from going out on the field and getting a penalty. What's the difference? You got somebody in place that walks where you walk and helps keep you focused. Every time you get off the path, he can tug you on the sleeve and say, hey, it's fourth down. We need to make a decision. You need to throw the flag. Because coaches get hyper-focused, man. And there's 8 million things going on that sideline. And I don't think people really understand how much information is being transferred on that sideline. You got what's going on in his headset. You got what's going on the field. Then whoever's on the field is either the offense or the defense on the bench. What are they talking about? Is somebody hurt? If somebody is hurt, who's replacing him on special teams? All of that kind of stuff at the same time. So you need good people around you. And if you got somebody extra just to pull them off or just to get them refocused, what's the problem? There is none. That's just something that people want to bitch about. I used to work at Apple, and I'm telling you, I used to have people, executives come in where their names were the business and wouldn't know email, password, wouldn't know none of that. You know why? Because they would get that information to their secretary and say, you do it. And then when it came time for that person to make the decision, he didn't know his own information. So even at any level of anything that you do, you can always use some help. There's nothing wrong with that. So ripping on Sirianni, to me, that's useless. Now, some of the criticisms are valid. Do you think he's immature with some of the stuff he goes back and forth with people in the stands and things of that nature? Absolutely. Absolutely, that's immature and not behavior that you would expect from a coach. However, you go back on YouTube and you look at some of those altercations that coaches get into. You look at some of the stuff that who was that? Was that Bill O'Brien? That got into that alter. It was a bad sideline argument. It was him and Tom Brady. I think it was Bill O'Brien. I could be wrong. But like they were going at it, slamming tablets, heads nodding, all of that kind of stuff. So the communication goes back and forth. That's why when you saw the stuff in the Super Bowl when Travis Kelce had that interaction with Andy Reid, it happens all the time. All the time. I was in the game. I remember when I was playing up in Canada where the wide receivers coach and a wide receiver almost came to blows on the sideline. And the coach told the player, well, you ain't playing no more. And the player promptly put his helmet on and went on the field. So sideline arguments are nothing new. We just make a big deal out of it now because now we got social media. And in the past, most people didn't see it, so they didn't worry about it. Things like that have a way of working themselves out if you just leave them alone. Because at the end of the day, even with the coaches and players, even you might not like coaches, but as long as you can be grown enough, when you get in that film room, you're both watching the same footage, you both understand what you're trying to do, which means you're both going in the same direction. Whether you like the coach or not, you both want a Super Bowl ring. You both trying to get the same goals. So people take that and they run with it, but stuff like that happens so often in the NFL. So often. It's just only now with social media and with the technology we have that they're pulling the curtain back. But now with the, all these keyboard warriors, everything that they see that they're not used to seeing, it's got to be a story behind it. There's got to be a schism in the locker room. AJ Brown got mad. Everything's not rosy with the Eagles. Something's wrong. No, it's not wrong. That's what happens when you play a physical sport and emotion is involved. That's what happens. Now they're trying to say that, and I'm hearing different stories. I saw what Howard Eskin said today about Fletcher Cox having a stern talk with Jalen Hurts about his personality and how he should, I guarantee you, It didn't go down like that. Trust me on that one. Sometimes you got to play this stuff out in your head, because at the end of the day, even though they at the link in the locker room, they still people. They still people with human emotions that react to different things in different ways. And I say this, and I stand by this. You do not want Jalen Hurts changing his personality because he thinks it makes everything better. You do not want a quarterback playing for you that is not true to himself. That is the last thing you want. The last thing you want is somebody that's not a rah-rah guy trying to be a rah-rah guy, because everybody don't respond well to that type. Everybody don't respond well to the one guy that's always a guy on the team that always got something to say, always got a quote, always want to give the speech, always want to say the prayer. Some guys don't respond. Like, dude, sometimes people look at them like, dude, sit down somewhere. The personalities have to balance each other. Jalen Hurts is not going to work if he has a personality like Slay. It's not going to work. It's not going to work if he tries to be loud and obnoxious like Brandon Graham. It's not going to work. So don't expect that, because that's not true to who he is. Now, if he wants to go out and here's the other thing. You have to be careful of this, because again, this is who that man is as a person. Everybody wants you to go out. Let's go out, do something as a team and do something like that. And if Jalen didn't want to go, or if he had other commitments, this, that, and the other, he couldn't make it, right? But in some situations, everybody don't want to go to that. Everybody don't want to go to the bowling party. Now, there's some things that you have to do as an organization. You go sign autographs, you go to an event. There's different things like that where everybody usually gets together. But sometimes it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. And you can't paint a picture of a player because he's not at every function. Or his personality, he's got to loosen up and show his personality more. I'm like, no, he don't. When he was showing his personality? When we went to the Super Bowl. That whole year, flexing, doing the gritty, throwing towels in the stands. Isn't that personality? He had plenty of it last year. So now he doesn't? No. Your personality changes when you lose. Guarantee that. Your personality changes when you lose. Because, again, if you play sports long enough, you've seen this personality. That guy that's perpetually happy, always positive. You don't want to hear that positivity sometimes after you done got your butt beat. You stunk on the field. You don't want to hear, we'll get him next week. You don't want to hear that type of stuff. Leave me alone in my thoughts. I'll see you at practice on Wednesday. So there's a way you got to navigate that. And it ain't like putting one personality on everything. Or it's not like what Fletcher Cox thinks he should be. You can't do that. Because guess what, Fletch? When's the last time you've been to a Super Bowl? You thought it was with Carson Wentz. Didn't work out that way. So you got to take what you get. Because I guarantee you, if it had been Nick Foles that started that whole year instead of Carson Wentz, you might not be in the same place. Everything works out for a reason. These things have a way of playing themselves out. Let them play out. You can't steer that ship. It never works. It never works. If Jalen Hurts comes out next year and he's all happy-go-lucky, always smiling, rah-rah, this, that, and the other, he's going to look as fake as a $3 bill. And sometimes maybe Philly fans, maybe y'all forget who y'all are. Because the one thing you can do in Philly is smell some fake nonsense in a hot second. So you're not going to go for it. You're not going to go for it. Why you think we don't like Ben Simmons? Why you think everybody kind of turned on Donovan McNabb? They don't like the fakeness. So don't try to put that on somebody. Just don't do it. Hurts needs to have hot reads when he's blitzed. Oh, this is what we talked about a while ago. The best way to beat the blitz, throw the ball in a direction. Yeah, that's the rule, Charles. When you blitz, throw the ball to where they ain't. If they're blitzing, throw the ball to where they blitzed from, because that means nobody's there. So, that scheme, dude. That scheme. I've heard that so many times before, but this is what I say. When you look at those plays, and you can pull them up, you can go to NFL.com and rewatch the games. Look at those plays where they blitz. Just watch the Tampa Bay game. They blitz 62% of the time in that game. But watch the plays when they blitz. And all you got to do is just look at the receivers about 8 yards down the field, 5 to 8 yards down the field. If it's a hot, you are supposed to reroute almost immediately. And your third step, you should be looking for the ball. That's what a hot route is. So a lot of times it's not just the quarterback, it's also on the receivers, because if you see somebody come up to the line of scrimmage and he looks like he's coming, sometimes receivers will put the hand on the head or brush it off or play with the gloves. Usually there's some type of indicator, just like baseball, there's some type of indicator between the quarterback and the receiver to let each other know we on the same page. If he comes, that's a hot route. I'm hitting you. I'm hitting you on the slant right now. But if it doesn't happen, that means they didn't practice it. That means they didn't practice it. Now, did Jalen probably miss some? Absolutely. No doubt. But there's also some where everybody on the field is going 10 yards down the field. We in gun formation. And nobody looked. So it's not, I'm not so quick to throw Jalen under the bus when it comes to something like that, because that's scheme. That's where you gotta, if, like they said, if sources, again, I'm still looking for this guy named Sources. If y'all know where he lives, tell me. Sources were saying that Jalen was freelancing a lot. Okay. Did he freelance all them bubble screens? Did he freelance all of those situations where we didn't pick up the blitz? He freelanced all of those plays. Don't work that way. Doesn't work that way. That was a failure in coaching at that offensive level, and it was unnecessary, because I still say today the problems on offense were not complicated. We needed to go in motion. We needed to run the ball more, and we needed to have a hot package. And it seemed like we didn't. And if, let's take them for what they at their word and say, yeah, it was Jalen going freelance. Well, that's why you pay the damn coach to pull Jalen back and say, stop doing that, or I will bench you and embarrass you. That's what a coach is supposed to do. He ain't going nowhere. You done paid him to 225. So as a coach, you got to pull the reins in. You mean to tell me if you can make the decision that you don't like your defensive coordinator and you're going to switch to a guy that you just brought in at the beginning of the year that didn't nobody really want in the first place, if you can make that decision, you mean to tell me you can't tell your quarterback, hey, if you are freelancing, stop that. And if you recognize the blitz, call this play. It don't work that way. That's got to come from up high. That's why Sirianni gets paid. If Brian Johnson ain't getting it done, you want to be the CEO coach, you got to make that executive decision, bro. You got to do it. Kellen Moore is a head coach in the making. Yeah, he could. I mean, he could. What I don't want to see is Jalen go through a gauntlet of offensive coordinators again. You saw what happened when he was in the same system 2 years in a row. You saw what happened to him in that second year. Now we start from square one again. He's got to run a new offense. So he's got to learn everything, learn timing, verbiage, and all of that kind of stuff, man. Learning a NFL offense is not easy, especially at QB, because you got to learn what you got to do, and you got to tell everybody else what they're supposed to do against the various looks you might see. So I'm hoping that Jalen is already getting to work. So I'm interested to see what we're going to do. We're going into hype season. This is what hype season is. Hype season is everybody getting ready for the combine and everybody getting ready for the NFL draft. So everybody's going to be giving their opinion on why this guy looks so good, why that looks so good. And you're going to start seeing more and more people gravitate to all of those big schools again. And we're going right back in the circle. This is secular. We're going right back in that formula where everybody's going to just skip guys because the school's not big enough. Happens every year. That's why we have Brock Purdy. That's why we have Puka Nacua, and so on and so forth. There'll be another guy this year. It is trending that Chicago are going to let Justin Fields walk. They're not going to keep him. That's where it's trending. Now, it could go in a different direction. These are all dominoes that are about to fall. And Chicago is the lead domino. New England at number 3. They make things interesting because it was assumed that they would most likely get Marvin Harrison Jr., but I don't think that's the case anymore. So I don't know. 2024 draft order. So we got Chicago, it's the first pick. Washington Commanders at 2, New England at 3, Arizona at 4, LA, the Chargers at 5, Giants 6, Tennessee 7, Atlanta 8, Chicago 9, New York 10, Minnesota, Denver, Las Vegas, New Orleans, Indy, Seattle, Jacksonville, Cincy, Rams again, Pittsburgh, Miami. Philadelphia is 22nd with a 22nd pick. So, So those first 3 picks, I don't know what Chicago's going to do. They all got good quarterbacks to go from. If is Caleb Williams going to be that guy? On top of, and Chuck said, if you still listening, you already know this is true. Every year, somebody in the combine jumps out the gym, and everybody's focus changes. It was Anthony Richardson, and Nolan Smith last year. Usually a couple guys. Somebody's going to run a 40 times. Like, where did that come from? So that's going to happen. That's going to shuffle some things up. Last year, Anthony Richardson just put on a show, and it made some people reconsider. So who's going to be that guy this year? Happens every year, and then that might shuffle the order a little bit. But every year, people watch tape on these guys. You watch all the game footage. You watch all the games in actual competition. And then they're dumb enough to base their opinion on one day of workouts. They've been working out for months to do these specific drills. They've been working on these specific drills for months. Running the 40-yard dash, doing the shuttle, vertical jump, 225 reps, all of that kind of stuff. They've been working on those specific things. So when you work on specific things, you can't help but get good at them. Sometimes I think the combine should be a combination of the 40-yard dash, the shuttle drill, And then on the coverage of the combine, they should just show game footage from the actual season. But even in that, I can tell you personally from somebody that used to make highlight tapes for athletes trying to get into college, you never want to show the highlights. You never want to show just highlights. And that's what everybody gets caught up in. There's two things that can always change somebody's mind: height or size and speed. You can't teach size and you can't teach speed. You can get a little bit faster, but you're not going to go from a 4.4 to a 4.2. Some guys are just faster than the others. And if you are blessed with that type of talent, or you're blessed with like Big Jordan Davis to be that size and run a 4.6, you can't teach that. You can't teach somebody to be 360 and run that fast. Not going to work. You either have it or you don't. So you got to manage your expectations based on what you see and based on what you've already studied. That's what people tend to forget. Yes, he ran a great 40 time, but you saw he got, he doesn't turn his hips right, and he always gets beat on deep passes or something technical and different things like that. But people get caught up in a thing and they don't see the whole picture. So hopefully we don't get caught in that situation. You know what I mean? John, I'm with you. Show me bad games. Show me what you do when you down by 3 touchdowns. Show me what you do when you've already given up 3 sacks. What's the thing that's going on now with San Francisco? Chase Young. Chase Young is catching flack because they got him on film loafing on a couple of plays where he could have easily made a tackle, but because he was lackadaisical, ran right past him. The big eye in the sky don't lie. And the one thing now, more than any other time, everybody keeps receipts. You can't get away with stuff like that anymore. Everybody keeps receipts. Back in the day, you used to be able to take a play off every now and then, and your boys would cover for you, or something would happen, man. Marshall, that's hilarious, bro. I got to get some fire effects so I can give you like a sounder for that one. That was a good one. Being named Chase and not having the motor to pursue. That's pretty good. But yeah, man, everybody's keeping them receipts now, man, and you can't get away with stuff anymore. Can't get away with stuff anymore. And I find it funny how like remember that situation in Detroit when Detroit played Dallas and the whole thing about the offensive tackle reporting, not reporting, all of that kind of stuff. Man, there's 8 million microphones in that place. Somebody had a microphone on them. Somebody has that audio, and somebody has the guy saying, I'm reporting. But it's always a bad recording or something like that. And I'm like, man, get out of here. Get out of here. Everybody's got a shotgun mic, and they got stuff where you can be 300 feet away, and if you point it at the right subject, you can pick up everything they're saying. They had that type of technology, man. Just use the stuff. Just use the stuff. Like, stop making up excuses. Get the stuff right, and we wouldn't have this problem. You know what I'm saying? So, dude, what's happening with the Sixers? I'm seeing a bunch of Sixers comments. Are they crapping the bed right now? Let's see what's on ESPN. But yeah, man. It's crazy. Now, going back to the rumor mill and the social media thing real quick. The Adam Schefter posted a tweet refuting what what's his name? Craig Carlson? Is he the guy on the show? that had all of that stuff to say, that said that he had proof. Somebody told him and gave him proof of what was going on in the locker room. And if what they said was true, this is the type of stuff that would definitely split a locker room. Don, what's up? There you are, bro. What's going on, bro? He had all this stuff. Somebody told him something. He wouldn't say who it was. He wouldn't say what it was. Only that it would have effectively split the locker room. And I'm like, nah, bro. You gotta, if you're gonna come out and say something like that, you gotta name names. But of course, now everybody's calling him on the carpet, and then Howard Eskin comes out with something. Now he's thinking it's validation, and I'm like, nah, that ain't validation, man. That's not validation. Because I guarantee you the conversation that everybody's portraying with Fletcher Cox, and everybody wants to put all these adjectives on it, because that's Fletcher Cox is a stern type of guy. That ain't got nothing to do with the conversation. You know, was he in a joking mood? Was he on his way to dinner? Did he just come in the locker room? Was he leaving the locker room? Was Jalen leaving? Was it in passing? You don't know what it was. Was it a joke? You don't know the context. And if you ain't got context, I'm not trying to hear from you. And I told you guys before, I don't care what anybody tells you on the news. Players are not going to snitch on other players like that. They are not going to do it. They're not going to do it. If something like that happens and it gets back to the locker room, that this player is talking to the media about other players on your team, that dude will be labeled a snitch. Nobody will talk to him. Nobody will want to deal with him. And everybody will actively avoid him. But shoot, now you can't even say that, because you got so many people putting these business in the streets themselves on social media and all this kind of stuff. And I always tend to forget this, but I got to remind myself, we had a running back that was responding to tweets at halftime. What the hell? What are we doing? As an athlete, what are you trying to do? What is that important that you got to answer tweets on social media at halftime in the middle of a game? That makes no sense to me. Priorities get out of whack. It used to be when we got prepared for games, I didn't want to see my parents. I didn't want to see my siblings. I didn't want to see my girlfriend. Leave me alone. I'm trying to focus right now. I'm in a different headspace. Probably not very nice. I don't want to say something I don't mean, but you trying to focus and get your energy going in the right direction, and you don't want to answer domestic questions and all. You don't want to deal with that. So all of this stuff people are bringing into the table, they don't know. They don't know. So, I understand that they have, every team has slow leaks. Every team, you think Adam Schefter is making all of this stuff up? Adam Schefter has a rep on every team who he can call. And Adam Schefter, the thing about Schefter and Ian Rappaport and Mike Florio and guys like that is they've been doing this long enough. So they can decipher and read between the lines. So when they call that rep on a team, sometimes the rep on the phone doesn't really have to say much. He can say certain things and gives them the clue so he can say it without saying it. That way everybody's safe. John, I believe you, bro. we believe it's too many people now that don't want context and they don't want to do homework. So I believe that. I can see right now, like the stuff that AI is going to let you do. I don't want to get into that rant because I'm a tech head, but needless to say, like, perfect example. All right, I can bring it home now. The situation with AJ Brown, whatever tweet he put out, now people are trying to figure out, was it him? Is it not him? Did somebody hack his account? He wouldn't normally say anything like. So now, before they figure out if it's true or not, everybody's done made comments on it. Everybody done had something to say. They did the same thing when all of that stuff happened with Jalen Hurts, and when first started hearing about he's unapproachable and all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't until Britton Covey came out the next day and was like, "Listen, I don't know where y'all getting this stuff from, but it ain't from me." And he was like, "That's totally untrue. He's the best," and blah 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 blah. And it's like all that effort that everybody was putting in to sources. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. So, I know it's early, but do I have a favorite draft prospect? Not really. If I'm gonna call out anybody, let me call out my boy Devin Leary. Devin Leary played at North Carolina State. Then he transferred for his last year at Kentucky. I coached him, so I'm biased. I want to see the guy. I want to see the kid make it to the league. That's somebody I coached here in South Jersey, GT Stallions. I know his family very well. I coached with his dad for 9 years. So that's personal to me. And I want to see the kid make it to the next level. So, yeah, that's my favorite draft prospect. Devin Leary. I'll leave it at that. I haven't done enough analysis yet to really pick somebody. I know I'd love to see them try to make a move to get Trotter, but I know it's not going to happen. Or not Trotter, that other running back. I can't remember his name, the kid from Texas A&M. The kid is good. But I really want to see – I want to see the Eagles, whoever they're looking at. And I'm outside of the offensive line because they always get offensive linemen. But can we get a defensive back? Can we get a linebacker that's top tier? That's what I want to see. I don't have names yet, but I just have positions. Edgerrin Cooper, yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Edgerrin Cooper. So, yeah, I watched some highlights on him, and again, I haven't watched tape. I just saw highlights. The kid looks like he can move. He looks like he can move the hips. He looks like he's decent in coverage. Like I try to tell people, they're not. Linebackers are moving kind of like the tight end has evolved. You got to be able to coverage. So what they'll do is they will convert a safety to an outside linebacker. Very, very similar to what they did with my buddy, my main man, one of my best friends, Willie T. Willie T was a safety and quarterback in college. Or not in college, but in high school. And then when he got to T went to Texas A&M. And then he moved to outside linebacker. And then came with the Eagles and could nobody throw. He's one of the few linebackers in the 2020 club. 20 sacks and 20 interceptions. So I would like to see somebody that can cover. But I got to see him run because I keep saying this all the time. A linebacker that can run and a linebacker that can cover are two different things. You can be a fast linebacker, but if you don't know how to move your hips against a wide receiver, you're going to get beat every time. Every time. Nolan Smith is fast, but if he drops back in coverage, that's a mismatch because he don't know how to move his hips. He's doing it from a rush edge position, not as a linebacker position. So backpedaling, opening your hips, closing speed, changing directions, all of those things. If you don't have a linebacker that can do that stuff, and then on top of that, at the end of the day, when the ball is in the air, can he catch? How many teams go down in the playoffs or trying to get to the playoffs because your defense finally makes a play, but you drop the interception that hits you dead in the hands? You got to be able to seal the deal. So So again, back to the original question. I just want to see whatever it is that we deem our need is, go get the best dude for it. You did that last year with the Georgia boys and Devontae Smith. Man, let's keep it going. You know we need a linebacker. If the problem has not been addressed with free agency by the draft, do what you need to do. If you don't, that means you're on the hot seat after the draft to get some more people in to make something happen. But usually you want to have all of that stuff already done so you have a clear idea of what you need to do in the draft. Now, this past year, who would have saw that we would sign Miles Jack and he decides he wants to be a carpenter? Christian Ellis gets hurt. No, not Christian Ellis, but was it Christian? No, Christian Ellis we let go. Who was the kid that got hurt? We had a linebacker that got hurt, but he was a special teamer. It was all kind of mess up stuff. It was Murphy's Law for the Eagles this year in camp. Murphy's Law. Everything that could go wrong did. Lee, I agree with you 100%. However, the tackling thing is a coaching thing, period. That is a coaching issue. You have to set that tone from the giddy up. From day one of camp, you got to set the tone that we are going to be aggressive. We're going to be putting people on the ground. That's when fights break out, all of that kind of stuff. So if you're going to do that, you got to be strong enough to be able to keep control because that can get out of hand very quickly. Do y'all remember 2 years ago in camp, the Rams and the Bengals got in a scrap in camp? And Aaron Donald had pulled somebody's helmet off and was about to crack somebody upside. Matter of fact, I think he took a couple swings with the helmet. Nothing ever happened with it, which is weird. But, yeah, if you're going to tackle, that is a tone you have to set at day one. When you get to the league, you know how to tackle. But just like anything else, if you don't practice it enough, you're going to lose the edge for it. So, John, please don't. I can't go down that rabbit hole right now, bro. I can't. I only got 5 minutes left. I can't go down that rabbit hole, bro. Yeah, two of my teammates, Seth should be getting a nod, and I can't believe that Eric Allen didn't get in this year. So I'm gonna leave that alone because that's a whole show in itself. Nah, I'm not. You don't have to teach people. Maybe you misunderstood me or are you responding to what somebody else said. What I'm saying is, when you get to the NFL level, everybody knows how to tackle. Now, whether they do it or not is a whole nother set of circumstances. And there's a lot of people, regardless of what Slay said last year, there's a lot of people in the league that don't tackle correctly. You look at Reed Blankenship. You look at, in 22, you look at Marcus Epps. Marcus Epps was a physical player, but how many times did he go up and make a tackle and drop his head just trying to deliver a big blow? If you remember, he did that against the San Francisco 49ers, and CMC just bounced off of him and went another 20 yards and scored a touchdown. You got to do the technique of see what you hit and wrap it up. Everybody knows how to do it. But again, if you don't practice it, you're going to lose your edge. You're going to lose your edge. So some people just don't do it. Yeah, they just bump, man. They just bump. Shorts and shoulder pads just bump. They used to say that when we would go in the team in camp when I was with the Eagles when we was up at Westchester. Banging. Seriously banging. The ones would go against the twos, or they would make a scout team defense for the first team offense and vice versa. So a lot of times, if you were putting up if you were having a good camp as a rookie, they would put you on the scout team versus the number one defense or the number one offense. And sometimes you would get an opportunity to put some moves on some people, especially if it was live. Because if If you could do something in that session, you know, shake Wes Hopkins, catch a pass against Eric Allen. Get to the second level when Byron Evans and Seth Joyner and Willie T are all in there at linebacker. But you can still, as a running back, I can get the ball and I can get 7 to 10 yards out of it. That's when you open people's eyes. That's the way it goes. But we used to bang in camp, man. We used to bang. There was always a fight almost every day because either somebody got mad that somebody got the best of them and they didn't want to go out like a chump, so they start a fight. The problem with starting a fight is you can only do that so many times before they'll kick you out of practice and ultimately you get promoted to fan. So you got to be real careful because everybody wants to make an impact and trying to do this and trying to get their name known and all that kind of stuff. But again, the big guy in the sky don't lie. So whatever you doing, fighting and all that kind of stuff, best believe we got to go back and watch film of that. And if you starting to fight because you got beat, man, they're going to run that play back about 8, 12 times. And everybody's going to be looking at you like, uh-huh. And trust me, everybody knows. Everybody knows. That's why I keep trying to say, man, the people on the outside, reporters and stuff like that, they don't have really any idea of how things go down in the locker room. And it's not even a locker room. The locker room is like Kleenex. That's a blanket statement. Conversations really happen in the film room because you can really give somebody the business if they didn't do what they were supposed to do, or if you had to cover for them, or if they gave up a sack or whatever the situation is. The conversations in the film room are the ones that are most important. Believe that. But I'm going to get up out of here, man. Stay tuned. You should have Irvin and Hollis Thomas coming up next. We got the, Eagles alumni block right now, man, a 2-hour block. You got Pro Fan Talking and you got Vetted up next. So I'm going to get up out of here. Down, I appreciate you. Vince, I appreciate you. K7199 for Abel. I appreciate you too, bro. I got to get up out of here. Yeah, we'll be back next week, and it'll probably be more news, and we'll address it as such. Check out my YouTube channel, Pro Fan Talk. We're going to keep it rolling, and I will see you next week right here on the Mothership, A2D Radio. Hit that subscribe. Click on that notification so you don't miss a thing because we're doing it. We ain't playing. I'm out. You guys have a good weekend. Talk to you later.